Welcome, greetings again, and welcome to another edition of Forever Young, a show that we believe age is just a number. And because of that, we bring you informational and inspirational information that helps you as you grow older in your seasoned years. Today's show will be hosted by myself, Dr. Sharon Mitchell, along with our fabulous Miss Jean Hendricks. And we have absent today our other co host, Mr. David Linton. So before we go further, I'd like for Jean to say hello and we will come back and talk about our special guest that we have for us today. Miss Jean, are you still with us?
Yes, I am, Dr. Mitchell. I'll always be here for you, and I'm so excited to be here today and to go into our questions with our guest. Back to you, Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Miss Jean. And we have another wonderful informational session for Forever Young today. We have some special ladies, so this will actually be a ladies edition today. We don't have any of our gentlemen with us today, but nevertheless, we'll have a great conversation. We have three ladies that will be joining us today. Their names are Miss Sabrina Stolze, Miss Cheryl Luke, and our very own Miss Betty Williams. And they are a part of something that we find very, very needed in our communities across the country. It's a program called Celebrate Recovery. And it is actually a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program for anyone struggling with hurt, pain, or addiction of any kind. And Celebrate Recovery is a safe place to find community and freedom from the issues that are controlling our life. And so we have members of this group who not only participate in Celebrate Recovery, but they also have their own stories as it relates to their involvement and how they became involved. Our first guest, Ms. Sabrina Stolze, is the U.S. State represented trainer for Celebrate Recovery. She's been married for 34 years and has 2 children and 2 grandchildren. And of course, when you see her, you won't believe that she's actually a grandmother because she certainly is very, very youthful. But she's been in recovery for 14 years for codependency and food and body image issues at her local Celebrate Recovery chapter. She served as the team director for CR, as a training coach, and eventually a ministry leader at her local CR center. We also have with us Ms. Cheryl Luke, who is the founder of Mosaic Life Network. She's a speaker, a writer, a podcast host, and a life coach. She's committed to empowering the generations to live with intention and embrace Christ's unyielding love. As the director of Celebrate Recovery in cultural communities, Cheryl has the privilege of ensuring churches, along with people of color, that they know that Celebrate Recovery is a safe environment to work through the pain of their past and receive healing from life's hurts, hang-ups, habits, and addictions. And finally, but not the last of them, is Miss Betty Williams, who's a member of our church of House of Hope Atlanta. She's the coordinator for Celebrate Recovery for our church and has just done a dynamic job as a result of developing it in our church. We are about a 2-year-old ministry now, but Betty has been our unsung hero in her efforts. Betty is a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. She has worked on her issues as an adult child from a dysfunctional family, codependency, and overeating. She's been redeemed from a 40-year drug alcohol addiction. And Betty is an Atlanta, Georgia native. She is one of those Georgia peaches. And when you see her, you'll know why she's a Georgia peach. She's a daughter. She has a daughter. She has two grandsons. She's been a professional registered nurse for the last 46 years, and she received an advanced nurse practice certification as a registered certified nurse anesthesiologist. There's so much to Miss Betty in terms of her story. She's a major caregiver in our ministry. She's active in other ministries in the church, but her work with Celebrate Recovery is what we're going to talk to her about today. And so before we have our our guest come on, Miss Jean, who typically has some nugget of wisdom, she's going to come back to the show and share something with us, and then we will bring our guests out for you to meet each one of them. Miss Jean, you have something for us today?
Yes, I do, Dr. Mitchell, as always. And this one is entitled, very short and very sweet. It says recovery. Recovery, it will be challenging. It will also be worth it. You will relapse, and that's okay, as long as you keep fighting. When you feel like quitting, think about why you started. Back to you, Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Miss Jean. And so without further ado, we like to bring our guests to the platform so that you can see their beautiful faces. This guest of all beautiful ladies today. And we certainly would like to welcome them to the House of Hope Atlanta and to our Forever Young program. This is one of our ministries of House of Hope Atlanta. Our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith, and our producer, Benton Aladdin. This is one of many shows that we provide to our audience. We're so glad that you tuned in to Forever Young once again. So we like to certainly start with Miss Sabrina. Miss Sabrina, can you tell us a little bit about Celebrate Recovery? And we'll kind of go back and forth with a conversation in terms of your involvement, but we like to certainly have you tell us a little bit about Celebrate Recovery.
Okay. Like you said, it's a Christ-based 12-step program. It also has principles that are based on the Beatitudes of Jesus Christ. It's been around since 1991. It started at Saddleback Church at that time. Pastor John Baker, our founder who passed this year, actually started it because he struggled with alcohol issues, and he just wanted a place in his local church where he could claim Jesus Christ as his higher power and get help for his issue. And it just started for his family and people in his local church, and it has just spread unbelievably over the last 30 years. It helps people with any kind of struggles, not just drug or alcohol addiction. A lot of people assume that that's the case because it's a recovery program, but it's for any hurt, any habit, any hang up, any struggle that you have in your life that affects your life negatively. It's an amazing program that I'm just so thankful for personally.
Wow, thank you, Sabrina. So you talked about it starting in Saddleback. Can you share a little bit about the founder as well? And then tell us what the vision of Celebrate Recovery is.
So John Baker, like I said, was the founder along with his wife, Cheryl Baker. He was struggling with alcohol addiction and was at the time separated from his wife. His wife had started attending Saddleback with their children, and they reconciled. He started working a 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, outside of Saddleback, and started getting sobriety, started working through the 12 steps, made amends, ended up getting back together with his wife. And they, like I said, they wanted to start something at their local church that can, number one, support his process of recovery, as well as help others in the church that were struggling with the same type of issues. And so he wrote Rick Warren, a infamous 13-page single-space letter outlining a program that he had kind of gotten a vision for to help families, not just those struggling with issues, but the families of those that are as well. Today it is a family program. There is the adult part of the program, but there is also Celebration Place for children and the landing for teens. And so that vision has come to fruition over the years. And his wife ended up, of course, utilizing it as well, and his children, who are now very, very involved. In fact, when Pastor John passed away this year, his son Johnny and his wife Jenny actually became the global executive directors of Celebrate Recovery, and Johnny is the pastor of Celebrate Recovery.
Okay, thank you.
And the vision, as you talked about in the mission, is really just to bring healing and restoration to all people, because everyone struggles with some kind of hurt in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Freedom. It's at the core of who we are. The freedom to live without fear, to jog where we please, to wear a hoodie. The freedom to breathe. Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Well, look, you might not be popular, but my favorite character is Celestial because
one of the quotes that I wrote down in the book that kind of stood out to me was, "Love is the enemy of sound judgment."
She seemed like a very needy woman. And I can't even respect Andre, because how do you prey on your friend's wife while he's incarcerated? Like, I just can't get with that. And maybe I got too invested in the book, That
I think you, Sabrina, has already answered the question. I was going to ask you about the vision to celebrate. What's the vision to celebrate recovery? I think you've already covered that.
Yeah, to bring healing and restoration, like I said, we want more people to know about Celebrate Recovery. We are a ministry that is in 35,000 churches around the world and have helped 7 million people go through step studies. And yet there are so many that don't know what Celebrate Recovery is or has never heard about it. And so even though we are a worldwide ministry, we want it to just be known by anyone and everyone that you can get healing through Jesus Christ's power in this ministry, giving you the tools.
Thank you.
I think, Cheryl, you talked about the Christ-centered nature of it. Can you expound a little bit on that? Because we've heard of other recovery programs, particularly when you talk about 12 steps. How does this program differ from some of the other, and the one that comes to mind for me would be Alcohol Anonymous, for example, where we hear the 12-step programs with that. So how do you differ from Celebrate Recovery regarding the Christ-centered approach to the 12-step model?
Was that for me?
Yeah, I guess either of you guys can answer it, either Cheryl or Sabrina, whichever.
Cheryl, you go ahead.
Okay, so the difference with Celebrate Recovery is Jesus is our higher power. In other recovery programs that tend to be more secular or traditional, the higher power can be anything that the individual decides needs to be their higher power. But with Celebrate Recovery, we acknowledge Jesus Christ as our higher power. We acknowledge him as our Savior. We understand that he died on the cross for our sins, and our goal is to ensure people are saved and healed.
Man, that's fabulous. That's one of the things that when I first became exposed to it, that really hit home for me, is that that's a centered focus.
Right.
And we know that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And so certainly
Amen.
having that as a platform and a background and a program that builds from that, it certainly is something that makes it different from your typical programs where you're struggling and you don't use Christ as, or as you're referring to, a higher power as your strength. You have some other strength that you can lean on. So I wanted to kind of, for our audience sake, to understand this is what makes Celebrate Recovery very, very different from many other recovery type programs and with steps, et cetera, is that we know who the focus of this program is, and we see the success. And you talked about what, 35,000 locations? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Are they all churches? Or are they in other areas? Is it just for churches themselves?
Well, generally speaking, the program is meant to be a ministry of a local church.
Okay.
But there are, like, for example, there are some Salvation Army organizations that have utilized it. So there are other organizations that do use
Okay.
it, but as generally speaking, it is an extension of the church. It's a ministry of a local church that has the overseeing of the local church leadership and the senior pastors.
Okay. So
Very good.
leading to
Okay.
that question, I'm sorry, Miss Jean, I had a thought with Cheryl when she started talking about the
No, go
local
ahead.
church. So
Mhm.
Cheryl, you're the person that's responsible for the cultural component. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
I would love to. My goal and my responsibility within Celebrate Recovery is to ensure that people of color are aware that Celebrate Recovery exists. If you take a look at Celebrate Recovery today, it is and has been a fairly white organization, and that has never been the heart of our founders, nor Johnny and Jenny Baker, who are our executive directors today. And so they brought me on to make sure that churches of color, that people of color, and not just Black people, but Latino, Latina, the AAPI community, and other Indigenous people know that this ministry is something that can absolutely change their lives. And I'm thrilled to be a part of this ministry. It has changed my life significantly.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, Miss Jean, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to ask Cheryl, why is an organization like Celebrate Recovery so important to you?
Mhm. That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked because I have been a part of the local church for over 50 years. And I've been through a lot of programs. I've been through, their church office offers Bible study. They offer, we have women's ministry, we have men's ministry, we have ministries for our children, and some churches offer some type of a deliverance sometimes, but when I became a part of Celebrate Recovery, I realized that I had never really looked at some of the issues in my life that helped in some ways shaped who I became, that is separate from who Christ called me to be. And so I happened upon Celebrate Recovery because I work at a church. The person who led Celebrate Recovery previous to me stepped out, and my pastor asked me to step in. And I came upon a ministry that I thought I was going to walk in and help a bunch of people find freedom. And that has happened. But I have found a freedom I've never known dealing with food issues, which is the thing that I've dealt with my entire life, and dealing with control issues. When I think about Celebrate Recovery, initially I thought, oh, those poor drug addicted people, or those poor alcohol addicted people. No, it is people who are addicted to control. There are people who have been hammered by anger. There are people here who have had things happen to them in their lives, and as a result, they react to individuals in different ways, or they have taken on habits that are not a part of who God called them to be. And walking through these steps, you find freedom or healing, and you do it in a community, and it's something that happens worldwide. It's not just something that happens in a church down the street that you have to go to. It can happen in our churches, and it's important to me. I think particularly in this season where racial tension has been magnified, and there are so many people of color who have gone through trauma and haven't had a place to, outside of counseling, haven't had a place to unpack the trauma in a safe environment and find freedom. And so it is absolutely important to me. I would say this is some of my life's most important work, to ensure that people of color know that there is a place and a space and an environment that is safe for them to talk about their stuff. That's why it's important to me.
Wow. That was
Well,
so good, Cheryl.
that was,
Thank you. That
because
was a lot of words.
Yes.
People can come to this organization with various types of problems or hang-ups, not only
Yes.
with drugs or smoking or anything like
Yeah.
that. I
Yes.
might need you as far as being overweight. I'll be contacting you.
Yes. And may I also say that, and I don't remember if Sabrina mentioned this, but 1 out of 3 people that attend Celebrate Recovery don't,
Mhm.
1 out of 3 people have a drug or alcohol addiction. Those other 2 people, it's anger, it's sexual addiction, it's pornography,
Yeah.
it's food addiction, it could be a myriad of other issues.
Yes.
Wow.
That is good. And
Anything that you can think of.
Very good.
Right.
wow. And I
Thank
think
you.
that's I think that's the key to talking about this program, is that when we hear addiction, we automatically
Right.
assume it's drugs, alcohol,
Right.
gambling,
Uh-huh.
smoking, but there are so many other addictive behaviors that we
Oh,
have.
my goodness.
Yeah. And so this is something, can you talk a little bit, Sabrina? I want to ask you, how do you create this safe environment you're talking about? How do I know that when I come in, all the stuff I say is not going to be posted in the church bulletin by the time I come out of the room? How do you ensure a safe environment in that regard?
Well, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love about Celebrate Recovery and appreciate so much, because each one of us that are in any type of leadership in Celebrate Recovery came in, Cheryl talked about coming in to help what we refer to as those people. I want to help those people that are hurting. And we don't understand, a lot of people don't understand coming in that I am one of those people. We also started it at my church, and I got involved because I was an administrative assistant at the church, but immediately knew that I wanted it for me, for my own, because I grew up in an alcoholic home. I went into a marriage where both of us had alcoholic fathers and grew up in those environments, and so we both had issues that we carried into the marriage. We didn't drink, so we thought we were good. We didn't have any issues because we didn't do that. But he had anger and control. I had codependency and food and body image issues, and just so many other things that we brought into the marriage, that we spent 20 years just really damaging each other and causing more trauma to each other and more hurt. And so when it was offered, I was just so excited about going, but there were things that I had never shared with anyone, things that had never crossed my lips and that I didn't think ever would, truly. And so that was one of the things that scared me about it. But from the very first meeting, you're encouraged we go to the large group meeting, and then there's a newcomers 101 group where you go and you kind of learn all of the things about Celebrate Recovery, how it is different than other recovery programs, what makes it unique, what are the different elements, what group are you going to go into for open share, which are the small groups where we share after the large group time. And one of the key features that keeps this program safe are the 5 group guidelines. This is part of Celebrate Recovery, and they're read at every single open share group, at every step study group, no matter how long you've been going, no matter how long your group has been going. These 5 guidelines are read at every single time, and they're enforced by the leaders of the programs. And so it includes things like not cross-talking, not fixing people, anonymity and confidentiality kind of being number one. And that especially for that particular guideline, that there's not a lot of grace offered. If you are gossiping about what's being shared, or you are sharing what's being shared in the group, that you will be given a warning, but then asked to leave the group if you do not follow those guidelines. And so many, these guidelines encompass all of the things that make it safe, because it's not just in those open share groups. They are enforced and taught and just a part of our DNA as a ministry. And that's what keeps it safe. And people are people, human are human, humans are human. And it's a learning curve and a learning process. But we learn how to keep each other safe in these programs. And it's one of the things that I just cherish about it. And it's the only reason that I've had any healing in my own life, because when I started, the things that I had never shared before, that started with an accountability partner in my first step study, but I didn't share about it in group. Then from there, I shared it in my next step study, I shared it in my group, and eventually in my testimony that I gave at our large group, and eventually at conferences. And so eventually I could share those things, and they lost power, and
Yeah.
the shoe was left behind.
That is amazing. Yes.
Wonderful.
We're back on our Thanksgiving installation.
Meet the Scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Why do you think these men don't want to get married?
It really depends on an individual's why we're getting married. A lot of the things that make a man good are kind of intangible. And his credit score shouldn't be the metric for what makes him good.
So we have a few minutes left, and I don't want to run out of time. We always seem like we have a lot of time, but when we get in the middle talking, we run out of time. And so we don't want to, so we don't want to miss our local person, Miss Betty Williams, who's one of our ministers in training at church. And she brought Celebrate Recovery to the House of Hope Atlanta. So Betty, we want to give you a few minutes before we have to wrap up to tell us a little bit about your involvement and why was it important for you to bring it to the House of Hope Atlanta?
Well, when I was out there in the streets, I stumbled upon a Celebrate Recovery group. I was told about a group of people that was meeting that everybody was just so happy about and felt like they was really gaining some momentum in their recovery. They're able to stay clean. So I went to the meeting, and lo and behold, when I got to the meeting, they were talking about God and they had the Bible. So when I got clean and sober, I immediately start researching because they planted the seed of God in my life. Because I had not been to church in 40 years. I knew nothing about church. I knew nothing about God. Didn't want to know about him. So that opportunity to go that one night planted the seed for me to really want to find out more about Celebrate Recovery. So when I got clean and sober, like I said, I researched Celebrate Recovery. I started attending meetings, and I realized, oh, wow, I like this concept of God. Because I realized God is what I had been missing all my life. I was missing the reason I was in that wilderness for 40 years because I had a relationship with God. Once I connected with God, my life turned around. So
my God,
I thought Celebrate Recovery could really help other people, because if he saved a wretch like me, I know he could save.
Oh my God.
Celebrate Recovery is a discipleship. I want to use it to go back and help people that's still out there that don't know God, afraid of God for whatever reason, can't trust God, and let them know that he's a forgiving God, a loving God. He loves you no matter who you are.
Come on, Miss Betty.
The Bible. He don't use nobody in the Bible that didn't have a negative so-called past.
Come on.
So
That's a fine now.
Don't get me talking about
Now, Miss Betty, you don't took us all the way to church now, I tell you.
I'm not ready to get up and shout.
Yes.
Because I'm reconnected with my family. I have a job. I have all those things the devil tried to take, and he was trying to take my life. because when I
Yeah.
found God, I was ready to commit suicide. I was
Mm.
one of those people walking down the street, felt like I was
Mm.
dead, just empty buried. So
Thank
God
you,
removed
Jesus.
me, turned me around,
Yes.
set my feet on solid ground. And like I said, if He could do that for me,
Hallelujah.
I just think
Yes.
Yeah.
everybody should at least have the opportunity to know who God
Mhm.
is. And so the 12
Yes,
steps,
sir.
the Bible verses, every step and every principle is
Yeah.
backed up with a Bible verse from the Beatitudes in
Yes.
Matthew 5. It has just been phenomenal in my life. Ask my daughter. I mean, people in my
Wow.
family, in my life, have noticed the changes along with my
Amen.
activities at church. So,
Amen. Thank you, Miss Betty. I think what you all need to add to celebrate recovery is not just recovery. You need to say restoration. I mean, to hear this
Yes.
testimony of how
Yes.
it restored her back to what God
Yes.
planned for her all along.
Mhm.
And you can't do that with just repeating verses. This was a
Right.
transformation. And so here's
Amen.
someone that's a poster child of how this program has transformed her life, all aspects of her life, not just from
Yeah.
overcoming her own addictions, but
Mhm.
reconnecting her with family, reconnecting relationships, changing the way that she did things. I mean, we've heard it all. This is testimony time of how
Amen.
someone
Yes.
can talk about the goodness of God and having
Amen.
something like this that changed her life.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't get a better poster child, if you will, in terms of
Mm-mm.
not just for the personal growth, but the fact that not only she's talking about discipleship, because he did it for her. Now she's saying, I want to go back
Yeah.
and tell everybody else so that he can do it for them.
Mhm.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
Exactly.
One of
oh, that
one of
was
the
powerful.
one of
Go
the
ahead,
things
Sabrina.
that Rick Warren says all the time is that Celebrate Recovery is a disciple making factory, and that because that all this program, all it is sanctification. It's just a
Yes.
discipleship program, but
Yes.
it's just very focused and gives you specific tools for issues that you have. But that is what Betty shared. That is the power of this ministry. That
Amen.
is everything.
Yes.
That is what it is all about for every one of us that have been a part of it, is that we have been able to see true transformation,
Amen.
real transformation, whether we've been Christians for a short period of time or our whole lives.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And that's what you want. Now it's no longer a program. It's something that's come to life. And it
Right.
lives on because it's living on in the people whose lives it's transformed. So it doesn't just, you don't just connect and now it's over. It continues. And what a great disciple you all have reflected in terms of being disciples of this program. For those of you who have tuned in, I got to give a commercial break. We're so full. Me and Miss Hendricks are going on and have church
Yeah.
now. We don't need anything else. We can benedict.
That's
But
a
for
collection
those,
plate. Had to pay your tithe.
yes, but I tell you, it moved us all. If you felt that, you're watching Forever Young, and this is a program for those who are over the age of 50. We say that age is nothing but a number, but you see that even sharing this platform, you can receive the things that God has for you. And we see women who are sitting here on this platform today that are talking about something, Celebrate Recovery, that has not just been a so-called program, but it has been something that has transformed their lives. And so their information is underneath their names. You can see their contact information. You certainly can reach out to them. And as usual, we always run out of time. We have a few more minutes, and I like to at least do a close for each of you ladies. And if you would, I know we had you for one booking. We'd like to know if you can come back and we can pick up and talk a little bit. You talked about the Beatitudes and some of the other components of the program. If you all will agree to come back with us, we'll do another part, and some people can catch us for the second part. But as we close this segment, I'd like for you all to at least leave us with something that you'd like to say. We'll start with you, Sabrina, and then we'll follow with Miss Cheryl, and then, of course, Miss Betty.
So my biggest thing always is that Celebrate Recovery is for everyone. I just can't say that enough, because that misconception just it's so hard to overcome that it's just for drug and alcohol addiction, but it is for everyone. Sin became a part of our life from the beginning, right? And we're all affected by sin, whether that sin is perpetrated against us or we perpetrated that sin against others. That's what creates the hurts that we come into this ministry for. that turn into hangups that we have that we can't seem to overcome, and then turns into habits that end up continue to hurt us in our lives. And so this ministry is for every single person on the planet. It can help you no matter where you're at or what your struggles are.
Thank you, Miss Sabrina. Miss Cheryl?
Yes, and to tag on to what you said so beautifully, Sabrina, is it's really easy for us to say that this is for them, this is for those people. And I really think that most of us are those people. And if you've been struggling with anything, lying, if you've been struggling with addiction, pornography, with codependency, I just want to challenge you to fight for yourself. I want to challenge you to do the work for yourself, because you will become a greater representation of yourself by doing the hard work of recovery. And, sometimes we get so bound and we become familiar with the ways that we live and that are not like God. Those ways become familiar. But once we release those habits, once we release those idiosyncrasies that don't look like Christ, we become more familiar with ourselves, and we become more familiar with the God that created you. So please do the work for yourself and know that God has freedom and that it's got your name on it.
Amazing. Thank you, Miss Cheryl. And so, Miss Betty, for the last few minutes, if you could share your closing message for us.
And I can't say any more than what they've already said. They pretty much said it all. But one thing I'd like to say is that God is here for everybody, no matter who you are, what you've been, what you've done. He's a loving, kind, forgiving God. And if you think that you're not worthy, please know that you are. That Celebrate Recovery is a place where you can find peace, safety, confidentiality, to explore those issues and to find out just how much God really loves you and how much people really care for you. And we are your forever family.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, ladies. This has been a remarkable ladies edition of Forever Young. And we'd like to thank our guests who participated with us today from Celebrate Recovery. And if you've got any hurts, hang-ups, this is our habits. This is a program that you can tap into. Celebrate Recovery is one of our ministries at the church, at the House of Hope Atlanta. You can find out more about our ministry on our website, or you can reach out to Miss Betty, whose information is on the screen. And with that said, we're going to close out this segment of Forever Young. We'd like to thank you for participating. Thank you, Miss Jean, co-hosting with me today. And again, to Miss Cheryl, Miss Sabrina, and Miss Betty, we'd like to thank you. And to our guests, until next time, this is Forever Young, where age ain't nothing but a number. See you next time.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jermaine Dolly, Mr. Hello Dolly himself, and guess what? You're tuned in to Tea and Worship with my homies, Mignon and Corey. Keep it out, y'all.
Hey, y'all, it's Candy West, and you're watching Tea and Worship with Mignon and Corey.
It's your boy James Fortune, and you are watching my favorite news show, Tea and Worship, with my sis Mignon and Corey.